We're here with Chuck Fleischmann, representative from Tennessee, one of the powerful House freshmen that flexed its muscles up here on Capitol Hill in his offices, and having a nice chat with Representative Fleischmann. First off, thanks for having me in your office, and it's been a pleasure speaking with you this afternoon.
Thanks for coming by, and we really love hot air.
Well, great, excellent. Let's talk a little bit about the budget. This is the hot topic today. President Barack Obama sent his budget down from the budget proposal, I should say, down from the White House. What was your reaction to the budget?
Very disappointed. This is not the same person we heard at the State of the Union a couple of weeks ago. This was a major shift to the left, and it disappointed me greatly. It's bad for the country. It taxes too much. It borrows too much. It spends too much, and it's clearly a step in the wrong direction.
Some of the taxes that were proposed in this new budget were taxes that even the Democratic Congress had more or less dropped from consideration. Some of the business taxes and other things. Even the Associated Press earlier today mentioned it. Are you surprised to see President Obama going back to those ideas?
I am. He's showing his true colors. He's shifting to the left, and I thought he was trying to move towards the center, and I don't know what his reasoning is, but it's bad for the country. It's bad policy, and right now we can't have this more taxing, more spending, and more borrowing. And that's why, as a House freshman, as a conservative Republican, we have got to draw the line in the sand and make sure that we stick to the $100 billion in cuts, and perhaps even cut further. Because if you have a president who's shifting to the left like this, continuing with irresponsible spending, it's just out of control. He just doesn't get it.
The budget cuts that he is proposing is $110 billion. I think it averages $110 billion a year over the next 10 years. That's for a full year's budget. You just more or less forced the Republicans to cut $100 billion in 7 months, which would equate out to $170 billion a year. And that's been considered more or less a starting position for budget cuts. What do you think the difference is here? Because in my mind, I mean, the budget cuts were announced last week, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, going back up to $100 billion. In my mind, President Obama had an opportunity to outdo the House here in cutting the budget, and instead it looks like he's sort of underwhelmed people with this new proposal.
Once again, I just don't understand why or how he thinks, other than he is a committed liberal or left of liberal, and this is indicative of that. He hasn't changed. I was optimistic. I tried to reach out and said the tone of the State of the Union I thought was decent. I thought he was going to try to at least meet us there and realize, as the bipartisan deficit reduction group had said, as members of his own party said that we're spending too much money, as I think he even indicated that we were spending too much money, but he just took a major step backwards and went far left.
Republicans have talked about returning to spending levels of 2008, capping spending perhaps at 20% of GDP. There's a variety of proposals out there. This proposal actually just takes us back to somewhere between 2009 and 2010's budget, or maybe even 2010, 2011's budget. It's like $3.726 trillion. I would consider that to be sort of underscoring the status quo rather than any sort of real change.
Well, what we need to do, and right now the CR is dealing with the discretionary spending side of things. We need to insist on the $100 billion. I think you'll probably see even more. You're going to see a tremendous amount of amendments added this week by members, and you'll see proposed cuts that do and will need to go further. But again, the president just doesn't get it, or if he gets it in the wrong way, the left way.
We were speaking earlier about Representative Steve King. He had noted that there's some funding mechanisms for Obamacare that is still contained within the continuing resolution. There's apparently a plan to either launch a large sort of an omnibus amendment to strip these out, or a series of amendments. You're going to encourage your fellow House Republicans to vote for King's amendments to strip those out?
I'm going to look. I think what we need to do is dismantle Obamacare.
Mm-hmm.
It was a bad law. I think it's an unconstitutional law, first and foremost. And we certainly hope that the judiciary does what the Senate failed to do. And the House stepped up and voted to repeal it. So any way we can dismantle Obamacare, I think we need to go about doing that. It costs too much, we can't afford it, and it goes back to what Speaker Boehner said last week. We're just plain broke. We've got to look at this situation as a fiscal financial crisis that it is. The president's gone in the wrong direction, and the liberal Democrats are going to go in the wrong direction. And what I hope is that conservative Republicans such as myself, independents, and good, smart thinking Americans sit down and make the tough choices that we've got to do and restore some fiscal responsibility and cut.
Representative Chuck Fleischmann of Tennessee, thanks for sitting down with us this afternoon.
It's a pleasure, sir.